Kaoru held the note tightly for a moment and then threw it into the recycle bin. The demon rat did not allow herself to believe in empty reassurances. Fate had written their ending to all die. How could the fox change everything on his own? A forced smile appeared along with warm tears. The little rat leaned her back against the cold wall, trying to create some happy memories, but the sight of 4 headless bodies lying still on the sand appeared, extinguishing all hope. Fear and despair broke into screams of terror. The sound of hurried footsteps and the constant knocking on the door forced Kaoru to see the despair that appeared on her face when she heard Ms. Onko calling. Kaoru, open the door. Open the door quickly. As soon as the door opened, seeing Kaoru greeting with a fake smile, Ms. Onko looked into the room and drunkenly asked, "Why did you scream so loudly?" Because a cockroach ran by. Kaoru hesitated and then quickly asked about something else. Are you out of wine yet? Let me buy more for you. A few bottles of wine are not as important as you. Letting you walk boldly on the street is like offering a goat to the tiger's mouth. Kaoru bewilderedly repeated the last words of Ms. Onko's words and then asked, "You mean the red-haired guy yesterday?" Correct. I had a hunch that that pervert was still around somewhere. These days I have to be very alert. Very alert. The drunk woman answered, then held the wine bottle like she was holding a rifle, staggering around the house, constantly muttering. Be alert to not give him a chance to catch you. What did Hiroshi do? Why do your mother call him a pervert? Dango lowered the white cloth on his forehead to cover his evil eyes and looked at Higa. That rat is at your house. And Hiroshi too. Do or don't is up to you. You encouraged me to go there and fight with him. It's rare to play against him. Go there and give it a good fight. These provocative words awakened the warlike blood. Higa's eyes sparkled as if he had found true passion. Being stared at by his teammates with eyes full of infatuation, Dango tried to avoid it. The face full of unspeakable emotions approached, closer and almost kissed Dango if the fire demon didn't have time to use his sword to push him away. Higa grinned with both eyes when being openly discriminated against by his teammates. Don't be so tense. You've become so much stronger these days. Instead of looking for Hiroshi, I think it's better to fight you. The group's hardest to please black-shirted guy pointed at the former leader and eloquently declared war. One day I will fight you again. Don't blame me if I kill you at that time. Higa nodded and praised. You're good. Okay. Having been friends with you for so long, now I know how good you are. The discriminatory gazes in the temple courtyard simultaneously focused on Higa. They looked at each other and whispered. I didn't expect Higa to be so omnivorous. He hides his gender so well. Looking at him fighting, no one would think he wasn't a real man. Some teasing words reached Higa's ears. The ball of spiritual energy immediately appeared, lighting up a corner of the yard. The former Death Realm detective shouted threateningly. Shut up, shut up. I'll kill you all. Dango looked at the chaotic chase scene in the yard, nonchalantly curled his lips and quickly went somewhere else. The teasing laughter gradually subsided and then fell into silence. On the high branches of the trees, the figure of the fire demon was like a black streak moving quickly towards the dark horizon. Without the fox demon, Dango no longer wanted to stay in the human world. He was no longer a detective in the dead world, so he has no obligation to guide new people, especially someone like Fuese who at first glance knows that it is difficult to integrate. Retreating to the demon world to rest and hanging around Konami is a safe choice, although a bit boring. But for Konami, seeing her trusted bodyguard return after a period of wandering in the human world, a hint of secret joy appeared in her eyes. The group of former Death Realm detectives temporarily disbanded after Hiroshi and Dango's unscheduled separation. Higa spent all his time learning to cook and silently protecting Chiharu. The vast Niran temple became even quieter when Hina was alone, struggling to take care of things inside and out. Seen from a distance, Hina's silhouette looks like a small blue dot moving slowly across the large yard. Laughter echoed from above, awakening an uneasy feeling. Eyes filled with sadness looked up at the sky and slowly closed as they watched the turbulent space expand slightly. Ordinary people couldn't see it, but for a demon like Hina, she clearly saw swarms of low-level demons flying out of the dark door, rushing straight towards the temple. They hit the barrier and disappeared as the purifying light flared up. The ghost insects that followed temporarily ignored the lone delicious prey and entered the city in droves. Hina took out her phone and called Tateyama, hastily announcing, "Mr. Tateyama, a creature from a black hole is approaching Tokyo. They escaped from dimensional space." The startled tone interrupted Hina's words. Tateyama asked immediately, "Are you okay? Don't leave the temple on your own. I'll tell Higa. We will deal with them. Don't leave the barrier." Other swarms of demon insects attack the barrier. The burst of light blinded Hina. A patch of warm light slowly fell and burned in the sky. Hina clutched the light blue fabric tightly, not daring to take her eyes off the destroyed barrier. Master Niran was dead. Akiko and the group of former detectives were not here. Who would patch this hole? The smell of death and the sight of demons gathering into large black clouds in the sky caught Higa's eyes. He still pretended to knead the dough and asked Mr. Shiratori, "This morning, I saw Chiharu made up so beautiful. Where did she go?" Some of her classmates invited her to go to Shibuya. Pausing for a moment, the owner of Shiratori Eatery looked up at the clock and wondered. Why did she come home so late this time? Higa intended to reassure his future father-in-law, but what he was about to say was interrupted by the phone ringing. Tateyama was calling. As soon as Higa turned on the phone, his teammates shouted into the phone, "Where are you? It's a big trouble. Go to Niran Temple now. I'm terrible sorry, but I have to go urgently. I'll come back later." As soon as Higa opened the door, a group of ghost insects rushed in and were burned by the aura. Hearing the hesitant sounds of the witness standing behind him, Higa quickly moved behind his father-in-law, knocked him out, then quickly contacted Akiko. "Akiko, please go to Shiratori Eatery to delete Chiharu's father's memories. I accidentally used my spiritual energy in front of him. Higa, you call Dango and Hiroshi to come to the dimensional path for me. This place is in danger now." The former Death Realm detective rushed into the street. What caught his eye was the sight of everyone surrounded by ghosts. They land on the shoulder, in the hair and then sink into the victim. Those possessed by ghosts screamed and clawed at the living. Blood flowed all over the road. Streams of refugees rushed to board police cars. Hospitals, schools and any safe place are full of people. They looked out, uneasy and afraid. Even when they realize that their relatives are there, they do not dare to leave the shelter because they do not know whether their relatives are still human or not. Higa immediately called Enki, asking the current king of the demon world for help. Less than 10 seconds later, Hiroshi and Dango were in the city as Enki's requestion. Hiroshi used herbs to anesthetize the insane. Dango used demon world fire to clear away the insects occupying the Tokyo sky and then rushed to Niran Temple. The extremely cold air surrounding the temple made Higa and the fire demon shiver. Hina sat in front of the temple, radiating cold air, causing the demons that invaded the temple to freeze, fall and break. Hina was panting from fatigue. Seeing the savior coming, she happily stood up and then collapsed. Dango quickly rushed over to help Hina up. Losing too much demonic energy because of fighting for a long time, she was so weak now. As for the barrier that Higa just patched up, no one knew how long it will last. "This place has no one," Dango mumbled, clearly annoyed. "Don't worry about me. Mr. Tateyama will be here soon. Akiko told me to send you guys to the dimensional road right away. Things are more urgent there." Hina tried to reassure. "This barrier helps me hold on for a while. When it broke, I recovered my strength. Then I will continue to fight. Tateyama is here. You don't have to fight." The eloquent statement outside the gate attracted all attention. Tateyama held his aura sword and boldly entered. "Take care of her carefully." Dango reluctantly asked for help and did not forget to threaten with demon world fire. "If something happens to her, I will ask you for your crime. Protecting Hina is my honor and responsibility." Dango glanced sideways at his teammate with a shameful face and then went with the remaining 2 people to the dimensional space. The spell created by Kaoru lost its effect. It is like a piece of red cloth fluttering on the road connecting the worlds. Akiko and the Death Realm investigator are surrounded by demons. They were almost exhausted after a long time of fighting but still had to persevere for the task of protecting the human world. Hiroshi continued to use herbs to distract the demons. The low-level demons flew into the white smoke, changed direction and disappeared into the dark, unknown space. Higa helps the task force build another magic net. The difficulties temporarily passed. Higa turned to Hiroshi and bluntly criticized, "At this rate, you still protect that rat. You mean this was caused by Kaoru?" Akiko exclaimed as if she couldn't believe the truth. The last time she met the rat demon, even though Shin volunteered to become the energy for her to continue living, the rat demon's power was still weaker than a normal person. Calling a large number of low-level demons and demons to the human world requires strong demonic power. This was really too much for Kaoru. The protective arguments that had just appeared in Akiko's mind were destroyed by Higa's nod and tough attitude. Faced with an indignant attitude and eyes that seemed to burn everything into ashes, Hiroshi still maintained his inherent steadfastness. Explaining to an angry person is like adding fuel to the fire. And baseless words make listeners even more angry. The fox demon turned and left but still did not forget to send a message. "I will find a way to lock down the low-level demons in their world. Take advantage of this time. You guys go back to the human world and do what you need to do." Higa quickly called out and chased after him, grabbing Hiroshi's collar. The fox looked at his teammates with challenging and provocative eyes. "You want to fight me again right here?" Receiving no response, the fox decisively pushed down his teammate's hand and affirmed, "Now we are no longer on the same front line. I don't mind. After destroying the trash behind the magic net, I will fight you guys again. One by one." Dango responded with a belligerent smile. The fire demon always looks forward to this day and is ready to rematch with a worthy opponent. Higa angrily punched his fist on the dark road below his feet. He didn't expect the group of former detectives had this day. An unscheduled separation and a meaningless promise. Friends became enemy because a demon girl came from otherworld. Higa, Chiharu's call echoed in his mind. Mr. Shiratori's message suddenly returned. Chiharu and her friends went to Shibuya and still haven't returned. Higa's heart suddenly ached. As soon as he stood up, the image of Chiharu with her back turned to him, nonchalantly walking into an unknown space filled with fog faded and disappeared completely. "Akiko, Dango, I leave this place to you two. I have to go to Shibuya to find Chiharu," Higa said immediately. The other two nodded, and the former Death Realm detective quickly left the dimensional road. Higa arrived at Shibuya when it was late afternoon. Dark red sunset covers the roofs of high-rise buildings. He asked everywhere, even took pictures of Chiharu to show passers-by, but no one knew where Chiharu had gone. Knowing he couldn't rely on people who only cared for themselves, Higa turned into a deserted alley and used his aura to probe for Chiharu's traces. For those who are still alive, there will definitely be no results. But when the soul leaves the body, the spirit will immediately recognize it. Higa didn't expect that, but his aura betrayed what he was hoping for. Chiharu's soul is wandering on a deserted beach. It seems that Chiharu still doesn't know she's dead and is waiting for Higa to come pick her up. That image caught Higa's eyes when he arrived. Chiharu turned her head to look at him and then disappeared as the last rays of sunlight shone in. On the beach, only Chiharu's body and an old man wearing glasses remained. Even though he covered half his face with a mask, he couldn't hide the satisfaction in his eyes. Higa shouted and rushed at the villain. He calmly waved his hand, knocking down the lunatic. As soon as Higa's body was placed next to Chiharu, Hiroshi and Dango appeared after the sand wind. The sudden absence of a familiar aura pulled them into a life and death battle. And the once resilient warriors of the dead world were also killed in the blink of an eye with the same attack. 4 bodies lay still on the red sand. The color of blood or sunset was unknown, abandoned by the mysterious murderer. Only Akiko's tears on the dimensional road silently sent them off. The River Styx ferryman quickly wiped away her tears, but it only caused more tears to flow. "Are you all leaving? Everyone promised not to leave me." Akiko knelt down, ignoring the low-level demons surrounding her. One of them was attracted by the pain, came closer, landed on Akiko's hair and disappeared. The goddess of death glanced at the white smoke formed by fleeting life and smiled bitterly. Besides the former detective association, no one can be friends with her. People view death as a scary thing and always try to avoid it, trying to prolong life as long as possible. No one was happy to see Akiko, except the former detectives who had been with her for the past 8 years. But when her teammates died, she cannot see off them. The dimensional road was gradually filled with ghosts. They surrounded Akiko, releasing sparkling dust into the wind. Memories were called back. Once again, Akiko remembered the days when she had her friends by her side. She accompanied them on difficult missions, cheered for them in competitions in the demon world, and treated them. They were happy, she smiled. They were sad, she cried. She truly became part of the group of former detectives and never wanted to leave them even when they no longer worked for the dead world. Pain attracted the demons, causing them to cane more. The poisonous pollen from their wings filled the image of death's half. The pain was awakened by memories. Akiko looked at the students waiting to take her life, gathered all her anger and pain and shouted, "What are you guys fighting for?" Negative energy wiped out evil insects. Light returns to the dimensional path. Akiko urgently ran to the beginning of the street, but that place was blocked by an invisible net. The Death Realm investors gathered in front of the magic net. They joined forces to destroy it, but that invisible wall did not budge one bit. Akiko frantically slapped her hands on the magic net as she saw the souls of the former detectives slowly passing by on the other side. "Please, don't go. Wait for me," the goddess of death pleaded and shouted each person's name. "Higa, Dango, Hiroshi, wait for me."